Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. There we go. Okay, so I am here with my special guest, Mrs. Jessica Bradley, and we are having special meetings this April for, I feel like I'm not looking at the camera. This is weird, guys. I'm not used to doing it this way. So I'm used to all of you being out there talking and responding to me. So I should be on chat because we're premiering this instead of actually doing it live. So go ahead and talk in the chat and all that good stuff like you guys do every week. But I have a special guest this week. This is her first time doing anything like this, right?
Yes.
So she's kind of like, nervous probably, but I told her just to pretend like she's just talking to me. So I wanted to interview her and pick her brain because she is a mother of
12.
Yes. 12. I know, 1 in heaven, 11 here with us. So her husband did a very good sermon. He talked a lot about it this morning. If you want to check that out on Liberty Baptist Church's YouTube channel, it was a really good sermon. I was able to listen to most of it in the nursing room. So it was really good. But I wanted to pick her brain. Not many people know her. Like I said, this is her first time doing it, but she is one of the ones in the trenches along with all of us. Lots of kids that you homeschool, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So she homeschools. How have you homeschooled them the whole time? Like throughout the whole time?
Yes, I knew even before we had kids, because when we moved to West Virginia, I knew that was going to be what we were doing, and the idea terrified me because I had never done that. I grew up in a Christian school. We never needed to homeschool. And I knew coming there that there wasn't options like that. So I knew we were going to, but I didn't know what it was going to look like. So I had never had
You like scoot closer this way. I feel like I'm looking back.
Sure. What do you need to do?
There we go. Oh, that's better. We're kind of close here, but that's all right. I want to make sure I get you on camera too. All right. So you have homeschooled all the way through. So Autumn
graduated last year.
Okay.
So she's turning 19, and my youngest is 1, so she's not started yet, obviously.
Yeah, no. The more I have, like, the later they start.
Yes.
I don't know if it's like that for you,
Yeah.
but that's how it is for me. So it's not as big of a deal as they get older. Okay, so you have been in the ministry how many years?
Well, this will be our 20th anniversary this June of the church. So.
Okay, and I heard your husband say you've been married 21 years.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, it's pretty close to what we have been. We've been married. It will be 20 years next week, actually, that we will have been married, and we've been in the ministry that whole time, pretty much. He was assistant pastor for about 10 years before we came here to plant this church. But so yeah, so you're well acquainted. So the church is 20 years.
Yes.
Okay, nice. And did you guys start that from scratch?
Started in a storefront.
I know how that is.
And
yes.
It was, but some of our sweetest memories are from those days. We were there 5 years. And most of those people are in heaven. Like I was telling someone here this morning, my husband's done a few weddings since we've been there, but we were counting, I think last year he's done about 200 funerals.
Oh my goodness.
So we've seen a lot of people go to heaven. So.
Wow.
Not all of those were church people, but a lot of them were, and they were all, that's of people that we knew personally, either family or friends. So.
That's quite a bit. But have you found throughout the years that you've kept a pretty good ratio in your church? I mean, I feel like nowadays churches are either full of like really old people or really young people. I feel like there's not a good mix.
We have a lot of young people in our church. We probably helped a little bit with that, but
yeah, I want to grow the church, have more babies.
but we do have a good group of young people, and a good youth group, and a lot of younger kids coming up. So. Yeah, but that's also fun. We've also had a lot of wonderful older people. I think my husband said before in a message that people told him when he started the church, don't mess with the old people. They won't do anything, or they won't change, or any of those things. But we have not found that to be the case. They are some of the sweetest people in our ministries, and we have seen just some beautiful testimonies out of those people. But there's some of them, like I said, that are in heaven now, but their last years were beautiful testimonies for the Lord. So I think it's been wonderful. We've had both.
So when you started the church, how many children did you have? Do you have any? Yeah, it was just you two. Wow. Yeah, because that would make sense with the timeline. So how did you grow your church?
I I don't know. I guess the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
I mean, when we
knocking
first,
doors.
Yeah, we came when we first came. We went to before we started the church. We came in February. We started in June, and so we were going to the church that his parents were going to at the time in Culloden, and it's a really good church and good people. And they actually went out soul winning with us on our like a big day before we actually opened the grand opening or whatever. And so they've been a blessing through the years. But
nice.
Yeah.
So you have it built up now, though.
It's gone through seasons.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know
there's times of us or more, and sometimes less. But
exactly. No, but we were able to go to your camp last year, and that was a lot of fun. You guys do a camp every year, and my kids had a blast. They loved it. So
ours do too. I mean, they look for. I mean, all of them, even.
And it is like
to my 19-year-old.
roughing it, like big. I was like, I'm going to the hotel. I was pregnant. I'm like, I'm going to the hotel. So.
I camped in the tent the first few years, but then I had little ones the next few, and so I'd take them home at night and then come back in the morning. But the kids love it, and I do not know what the magic is about it, but every single one of my kids, up to my 19-year-old, they all love it. I mean, they look forward to it every year. It's like the highlight of the year. So,
and last year was particularly nice because it was right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
And so it was like a break from just the craziness, you know?
Yes.
And of course, that going to Walmart with you is one of the first times I almost got kicked out because I was told I had to show my papers. I think it's because
I was with you because I never had any problems.
I just would track it. Everyone's like, oh, she looks like she'd be fun to kick out. Let's go kick her out. No, that was the one I was told I needed to show my papers. And I was like, is this Germany? I don't have to show my papers, you know, because they were saying I had to with medical condition. Now, have you been back there since? And
I don't go to that one as much because we go to the one closer to us in Cross Lanes, but there's usually one or two in every store. You kind of know who they are, like the ones that are like the mask police.
Yeah.
But so I just try to avoid eye contact and just keep walking. But,
oh, that's funny. Okay, so I'm going to pick her brain about a few things, being a mom of many. So let me see, where do I even start? I know one of my ladies here at the church was like, ask her about like transition when it comes to like moving. How do you get the kids, you know, different seasons of like when you have littles, how do you transition when you have big events going on?
As far as, you say moving?
Yeah, she was moving. Have you moved very often?
No, we've been in the house we're in. When we moved there, we Kayla, our fourth, was a baby. So we just
yes, you haven't moved very much.
No, I am not a mover. Actually, I would love to be in the country eventually, more so than we are. But the
You're not in the country?
Well, we are.
I thought you were.
But it's still a neighborhood.
Okay.
Now his mom's place where we have the camp is out in the country.
That's in the country, yeah.
And so, I mean, we may move one more time before we die, but I'm not a mover. I prefer never to be staying in one place until we die. But.
I know, because we were thinking about buying a new house because our house is so small. We've decided to renovate it instead. Yeah. We're going to knock out like a half a wall open up the kitchen, living room.
We're always reinventing.
Yes. And we have a lot of space and we're not using it. So we're going to like knock out some walls to kind of open things up. And then we're going to use the back part of the house that we're not using to turn it into another bedroom.
That's nice.
You know, so
it was a 3-bedroom house when we moved there. Of course, we only had 4 kids at the time. One was a baby. So it was no problem. You know, but the little room that was next to the living room, kind of like a sitting room or whatever it was when we moved there, is now Autumn's bedroom, and our back, it was a big open porch with a swing and everything. When we moved there, it's now closed in, and that's one of the boys' rooms.
See, you're doing like what we're doing.
There's always a project.
We're finding out where we can put more people. We did finish one room in the basement. We want to finish another room down there for Abby, and then we're going to do the back room for Tommy, you know, for now. And yeah,
so we don't really have a basement and we don't have a garage. And so storage is always a challenge.
Yeah,
so I have become not a keeper. I'm always getting rid of things.
See, and Miss Heidi, if you're watching this, you know Miss Heidi, it just appalls her how much I throw away. But I don't want to hang on to it. If I don't see that I'm going to use it in the next week or so, I don't really want it because it just takes up too much space.
Right. I'm always trying to reorganize and find a better system, better something to keep everything neat and organized and where we know everything is. So.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the basic schedule of your life look like? Day. Do you wake up before the kids?
Yes.
I don't, because I'm bad about that when I have a baby. When I have a baby, I'm bad about that.
I do, and I think that's more out of
sanity sake.
Maybe
for me, maybe for my sanity.
No, probably if it was up to me, I probably would sleep in. But I've always, since before we even had kids, I've always gotten up with Trav, and you know, we make coffee or you sit and read or whatever. And sometimes if he's going off to do a job or something or go to the church to study, then I might go back and lay down for a while. But I've kind of just gotten that habit of getting up with him. Not that I always do it, but most generally I do.
Nice.
And so that gives me a little head start.
Yes. Anyway. Yeah, I remember when my kids. Okay, I had a big gap between Lana and Kelly. So Lana and Kelly, is she my last? Yeah. See, it's a big gap. So Lana's 7 now, Kelly's 2. So there was a 5-year gap between there. And so I got to the point where I was getting up very early. You know, I didn't have to be a baby anymore. So I would get up really early.
So I haven't gotten there yet.
No, you still have a baby.
I have been in diaper stage for 19 years.
Yes, you still have a baby.
Yeah.
And I have 2 babies now. I mean, I have 2 in diapers. The last time we had 2 in diapers was Jason and Abby.
Wow.
So usually we get, like I said, though, I potty train fast. Like usually with Kelly, I've slacked off, but usually I potty trained at 2. So by the time they were 2, I'd potty train. So usually I'd had another one by the time they were 2.5. So I'd have like a 5-month period where there was none in diapers, and then I'd have one in diapers again. But
it just seems like it worked out. I think the most space between any of ours is like just over 2 years. So I mean, there really hasn't been much. I don't think we've ever had none in diapers yet. So.
Yeah, Lana was the first. I had her out of diapers for 3 years, and then we had another 2 in diapers now. So, but yeah, I don't know. I do so bad with that. I know I would probably feel better if I got up before the kids.
But I have learned that different things work for different people.
They do. And that's what I tell the listeners too. I tell the ladies all the time that my house is not your house and your house is not my house. And if your husband wants you to get up with him, then get up with him. My husband, though, there's been times when he's worked at Walmart where he would get up at 2:30.
Yeah,
I'm not getting up at 2:30. I wouldn't. So that's kind of out. So we've always been on different schedules. So he's never had, until up last year now, for a year now, he's been more on a consistent schedule with sleep and stuff like that. But yeah, it's been different in our house because we've always had different wake up times and stuff. So, but yeah, so you wake up before the kids.
Maybe you should get about 5:30. But it's about the latest he gets up. He's been getting up a little bit earlier than that, so sometimes.
Oh my goodness!
So sometimes I don't get up right when he gets up.
Yeah, that's really early.
but I try to get be down there about by 5:30 or 6, and then it is nice because it's quiet. The house is quiet, and it's like the only time it's quiet. So
the only time
that's nice. Because I don't like to go to bed either, so. It's not quiet at night either.
I know.
We want to go to bed before they do. So.
I know it. And so then what time do you usually try? Now for me, for my house, breakfast is kind of a free-for-all.
Yeah.
Chloe has actually been making breakfast every morning, which has been nice.
It's been through different things. A lot of times and the kids kind of make fun of me because like they say, well, you only cook breakfast if Daddy's here. Well, it's kind of that way because if we're all there, then I'll make biscuits and gravy, or you know, we'll have a breakfast together if we're all going to be there, because then I know everyone's going to eat it. But other than that, everybody kind of gets up at different times, and that's
kind of how my house is.
My younger ones get up earlier than a lot of my older ones, and Autumn gets up early, and so she tends to like get the little ones breakfast, or you know, fix something if somebody wants it, some eggs, or you know. And I'm not a breakfast person that much myself, so
yeah. I can actually drink my coffee and be good for a while.
Yeah.
I try not to be that way when nursing because I feel like I need more when I'm nursing. So I'll force myself to. But coffee actually fills me up till like lunch.
I'm horrible, so I'm probably not a good example because I don't really eat breakfast. I do. I mean I might if I get up with him, I might have some toast or something with him and take my vitamins or something like that. But then once I get busy in the day, I'm bad about even stopping for lunch. So I tend to make one big meal in the evening unless there's one thing with my husband has never been had he has a schedule of things he needs to get done, but not a time schedule.
Yeah.
And so it's always been very flexible depending on what we're doing or what we need to do or where we're going. So I typically make one big meal a day and then the rest of the day.
That's kind of what I do.
Lighter stuff.
That's what we do too. So what curriculum do you use for your kids?
I've used
like a mix.
Yeah, I've used a lot of different things over the years, and honestly, I have a great collection of a lot of great resources if anybody wants it. It's all good stuff, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be something they use or like you wanted them to, or that's going to help them like you wanted them to. I tend to keep it all, which is
I do too,
because it is good stuff.
You see my schoolroom, I know.
But it doesn't mean it's going to work for them.
Do you do different things for different kids?
Some, because when I was just my older three, and I often say, and they could probably get tired of me saying it, if all of them were like Autumn, my oldest, it would have been a breeze. I didn't even think about it. She's always, just done all of her work.
That was Tommy.
And she'll go. And as she got older, she would do it in her room, and she would do it all herself, and I never had to worry about it. But they're not all that way.
Yeah.
So, but early on, we did like ACE. With the older three or four, for the early years at least, and that went well until I didn't have time to check on them anymore. But honestly, that's one area where it depends on your family situation, because I found that I needed curriculum that they could do themselves, and as little of me as possible.
That's all.
I know that sounds bad, and if you have time to teach, do it. As far as
I think most families though that have a lot of kids are on that wavelength. They want to make them be independent learners.
I want them to learn. I want them to learn. Yeah. So that they can learn anything and not be constricted by what I have time to do. I don't want them, if I'm not able to work with them that day, they don't learn anything that day. So I want them to learn, and that's something my husband tries to teach them that different ways also. And so and some of them have caught on to that better than others. Some of them need constant
supervision,
attention, or or want your attention. So you just have to find what works. But I've used a mixture of things. We did that for a while. Then I would try other things. So for different subjects that I thought might be better. I've used a lot of good materials. The Mystery of History is really good. I enjoyed that for some of them. For grammar, I liked a lot of the analytical grammar. But recently I've become more simple. I've had to simplify so that we actually get more done, because I think we were trying to do too much and we weren't doing anything. And so sometimes we would go for, I hate to say this live, but we would go 2 or 3 weeks and not have a school day. So if something came up, if we went somewhere.
That is hard with the pastor's family,
to get back on track.
Yeah.
And so
that is hard sometimes when you get busy.
One thing that has worked for us, and we're in the process of getting back into again, is more simple. We do make sure they do like math and in English and reading, your basics. And then a lot of the others, I feel like they learn better than learning themselves than through an actual have to do an assignment type of thing.
Have you heard of Robinson curriculum?
I actually had a while ago. That was one of the things.
Because
I have the little CD case.
Do you? Okay.
And so I have all those materials still. Yep. But I like the mentality of that. That's why I got it.
Well, it's the three main things. It's the writing, the reading, and the arithmetic.
And so I got into that for a while, and then printing everything myself. But again, with the time and things, sometimes it just didn't always work like I thought it was supposed to work. So, but so now if I can get them to, and honestly on the math, my kids are not math
fans.
So
most kids' math fans. And
so
let me see. Lana likes math, but she's 7. So
hey, there you go. You might have
she likes math, and that's really about.
I have a couple that have that get it better than others, and so it's not as much of a problem for them. But for me, I feel like unless they're interested in going into something that's going to require more advanced math, if they can get through algebra, and that's good enough for me. And so if they can do math and they're reading and some I was talking to another lady last week, and it was encouraging to me because we were on the same wavelength. And she was talking about how a lot of times for the other subjects like your history and science and things, where they just learn things on their own, or you can give them something like that they can learn about this, and go study. Whether you watch something or read something, and then come tell us about it, or write a paper about it. And that's so they're learning something. They're also writing about it. They're presenting it to you or the family. It doesn't have to be formal, but like at the dinner table, or just tell me about what you learned, or and so it's less time sitting at a table and
more hands-on. Funny story about Jason, because he was one of my worst. That I had Tommy, who was just like nose to the grindstone, got done every day, not a problem. And then Jason, oh my word, he hated school, hated it with a passion. I knew he was never going to be college bound because
I don't know that any of mine are.
He hated it. He needs to be hands-on with whatever he does. Well, he learned more in the last 2 years of just watching documentaries about the Soviet Union. He has a fascination with Russia. So he would start watching all these documentaries on YouTube about Russia. He knows about all their wars. He knows about all the different things that they've gone through with the democracy, or all their political things or whatever. He knows all about that. And he'll sit there and tell me about it. And he learned more from watching YouTube documentaries than he ever did in his
If
cases.
They're interested, they learn. Yeah. They learn more than anything, memorizing any dates or facts.
And then how the YouTube rabbit trail works. Well, then it will lead to this documentary and this documentary. So then he's learning about this. He was interested in Alaskan fishing. A couple of weeks ago, was telling me how he was watching all these videos about Alaskan fishing.
Now my boys are like that. They learn a lot of stuff that way.
Yeah.
And but it's funny, that's exactly how my first two were. Autumn, she was reading at 5. She read all the Little House books, and she was. I just thought, okay, that was easy, And then Bub, or Travis, we call him Bub. So when it was time to teach him to read, I thought it was going to be same. Sat down with him to read, and literally it was like a cry fest every day. I mean, I would sit down to work with him. He would end up falling over on the couch crying because he didn't want to do it anymore. And it was a totally different ball game. Yes. But he's incredibly smart. He loves history, and that's how he learns. I mean, so I have all the resources there of stuff that I've collected over the years. So that stuff is available for them to look at. And he'll watch a lot of YouTube documentaries, things like that. He loves YouTube for that.
Yes. That's nice for that.
He's a history buff. He loves history. He knows more history than he remembers more history than I remember. Even though I got good grades, I don't remember all that.
Yeah.
And so he likes World War II and the world and American history.
Yeah, Jace likes that too. He was telling me all these World War II facts just from watching documentaries.
They learn a lot like that, and so if that's where we're at, and that's what the technology we have. So if that's how he learns, then that's fine. And so I think that saves time and money, and
it does
a lot of things. So because we've never been able to buy box curriculum for each grade. That was never.
When you have that many, it's
in the budget,
expensive. It's really, really expensive. And that's kind of why I went towards more of the Robinson curriculum this year. Was a lot financial. I have a really good printer. It's really easy to print stuff off. There's websites you can get the books, abebooks.com or something. If Karen, if you're watching, let me know if that's right. But there are different resources that you can get things very cheaply. So as much as I like having, I kind of like the box curriculums, because it's like, how much you have to get done. Right. And then you're done. That's the school year. Right. And so I like that, but it's not always the optimal.
And there's a couple of my girls that need that kind of structure.
Right.
Like, this is what you have to do today. But I still think if I can limit it to, because that's what I was trying to do, because I knew they needed that. And so I went to, like last year even, I went to a more ACE style. It's another one called Christian Light, I think.
Yeah,
it's more Mennonite, I think.
Okay.
Maybe influenced, but I mean the material was really good. From what I can tell, but I've only used it. They only used it for a year, but I got all the subjects, and they're not getting them all done, So I think we're going more towards, if we just stick to the basic 3,
right,
and then they can learn. We have all kinds of resources here,
right,
and then there's a document if they want to learn. They can learn history, or they can pick a topic to study a day or a week,
right,
and write something on it, or I can give them something. They're still going to learn more than what they're learning now by not getting it done. So.
And my friend Jujana, she has a book that she wrote too, and it's using all resources from the library, which is really cool. So you can just pick whatever country you want, and then she even has like resources in there for like different activities you can do and different crafts. So that's cool too for big families. I mean, it's just one book. Yep. It's like $25 or something.
And I really liked, and I still like, even if they didn't use it like the way that's supposed to be used or whatever, but they do like to read the books, is The Mystery of History, because it's like and I'm sure there's other ones that are similar, but it was really nice that it's a timeline like history, but it doesn't include, instead of just saying like world history or American history or Bible history, it's all together. So you're learning, one lesson will be on Cain and his sons, and the next lesson is about the Chinese. It's stuff that went on at the same time. So
that's really cool.
Together, so when this was happening in the Bible, this is what was happening.
Oh, that would be cool.
Other places in the world. So it's just like a timeline of all of history. And so I really enjoyed that, because I learned a lot that way.
I would like that.
And so that you go through the first book is a certain amount of the timeline, and I think there's 4, up to modern times. And so it's, even if just to have the books, even if they won't do all, I mean, it's laid out really nice if someone had the time to do it, that where they have the lesson where all the kids can do it, and there's assignments for, like, if you want a younger one to do, or something more in depth for an older one, or it has all kinds of stuff that can go with it. But even if you just had the books, they could, and if they're not going to do the assignments, read that chapter, but I really liked those books. I liked the history that way. But
that sounds cool. And I didn't even get your testimony, but you grew up in a Christian home. You were saved when you were little.
Yes, I did. It wasn't traditional home, probably. Me and my sister were raised by my mom, a single mom. My biological father, that's where my mom and met him. She was newly saved when she came to First Baptist in Hammond, and to go to college there, and she met him there, and he was to everybody seemed like a wonderful person, and he went off and started a church in Washington when they were newly married. And I think I was probably 2 or 3, and my sister was a baby, and he was very abusive to my mom from the beginning, and just in a lot of ways, and so physically and verbally. And he ended up leaving with a.
Do you remember him at all?
Do I remember him? No, I do have, I remember telling my mom when something like a flash, like a memory of something, and she's like, "How could you remember that? You were like 2." I'm like, "I don't know." Yeah. And so, but no, I don't remember him at all. Okay. And but he did try to like reconnect with us when we were in college, like he had been following us all these years. But yeah. No, but I am. He left with like a 14-year-old babysitter, piano player, whatever.
Oh my goodness, that's awful.
But so we came back to First Baptist, and that's where I grew up my whole life. And when I was going into high school, my mom married Randy Erickson there at First Baptist, and he is my dad.
I thought he raised you. I didn't realize you were that old when they got married.
Yeah. Okay. He was an amazing man, and I mean, I'm sure more people know him than what I would know. But he just had a way of making a huge difference one at a time. I mean, he was an incredible. He wasn't a speaker. He wasn't a preacher. He was a maintenance man, but he was he just was one of those people that you wouldn't forget.
And you made your mom happy.
Yes, he did. They were very happy. And
I was able to talk to your mom at the camp. We talked a lot about this, and you could tell she loved him very much.
Yes, and he took good care of her, and he passed away in 2016. It's just a very short. Found out he had cancer in October, and he passed away in December.
Wow, that's so fast.
Yeah, it was really fast. We weren't expecting to lose him like that, but he made a difference every day he was here. So I mean, we still have all those memories to live on. So
that's a great legacy.
And I don't honestly, it's not I've never been bitter or wished my life was different or anything, because I think I couldn't have been better. I mean, I appreciate everything about how I grew up and how I got to grow up, and because I can't imagine that if things had been different, or if we had stayed with him, that it would have been worse, not better. So
see, and I love that too, because we were just talking about it earlier, which I wish maybe eventually we can do another show together where we do it through Zoom, where you're at. But I would love to talk about this, because we were talking about people that grew up like we did, because I grew up in a Christian home as well. And when they turn our age, 40, 45, they decide they don't want anything to do with it. And they completely change in every aspect. Like, they'll be in an IFB church, and maybe they'll drop out of church altogether, or they'll start going to like a trendy liberal, church. The standards will drop. They'll start doing things they never did their whole life. But they grew up learning this is sin and this is wrong. And, suddenly it's not anymore. So we were kind of wondering, what is the reason behind that? So that would be something that maybe we could talk about. And I think that might benefit a lot of the women that watch are first generation Christians, but they're raising second generation Christians. Yep. So, that might help as they're raising them, just kind of some of the things to look for.
I have tried for, years. You always watch and try to analyze things and find it. I know, especially when I was, as far as parenting, when I was younger, I thought I needed all the books, and all the ideas and all the methods of everybody. And my husband hated that. He's like, throw away the books, just listen to me. And not in a bad way. I'm just saying that, but you find out that just because something works for someone else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. But what I will say is the same, any method or anything that I do may not work for someone else, but the one that helps me and the one that works in me is the same one that works in them. And the Holy Spirit will help you find things that work for
and I think family. That's a big part of it is the Holy Spirit. So many people, and my husband said this in Sunday school, they want a checklist. Give me a checklist so I can raise perfect kids. Right. Give me a checklist so I can have a perfect life. But they don't rely on the Holy Spirit to guide them in these things. And each home is different. Your home's different than my home. I do things differently than you do, so
everybody wants just give me the easy, practical, okay. So you tell someone to pray about something. Okay, but what else? Tell me what I can.
Well, what would you do? Tell me what you would do.
I'm serious. But it's sometimes what you really need is not the answer that you want, but it's sometimes it's just, Lord help me, because I don't know what to do. I don't know. Everybody spends their time doing something. People ask me all the time, "Well, how do you do it? How do you do it?"
You just do it.
You just do, and then everybody spends their time doing something. Yeah. When we lived before we lived where we are now, we rented a little place when we just had Autumn and Bub, and this lady next door, she had all these flowers all over, her porch, her yard, and she took care of these flowers all the time. But every time she would see, we only had two then, so I don't know what she was talking about. She was like, how did your wife do it? And he's like, she said, I felt like asking her. He's like, how do you do that? All those flowers. You spend your time doing something. So
I do a better job of keeping kids alive than flowers.
Yeah, I'm not a good fan.
No, I'm not either.
It's just what you put your time into.
And I've always said to people, I have priorities. I know from the time that I married my husband, we wanted a big family. We had always said we want at least 10 kids. Well, we're up to that because we have 2 in heaven. Two, I lost 2. So, we're up to that now, but we have 8 living, but I don't know, that was my priority. My dream was to be a wife and a mom. And, so many people in society look down on that like you're giving up something. You're giving up a career, or you're so smart. You have so much talent. Why are you wasting it?
You're using it.
Yeah, exactly.
Every day.
I mean, think about everything. I think about even just the stuff I learned in school, even when it comes to homeschooling, you're using that to help teach your kids, and even what if it comes to, I know we have a lady here in church, Chantel, she's from France, and she has a culinary arts degree or something. I think she's a chef, but she makes really yummy stuff for church,
Cool. That would be nice.
So yeah, so she makes like all these, pastries and different things and stuff for church. So she's using that. And then her husband is the music director here, and he's teaching his kids music. So, they're using that. But what are some of the comments directed towards you that with all your kids in tow?
Oh my.
Better you than me. Have you ever heard that? People have said that to me in front of my kids, and I'm thinking, you're like pretty much better you than me. So
I
what
think
are you
we've heard
saying?
it all.
Are they all yours?
I mean, just unbelievable, some of the stuff that you hear. But I mean, you kind of learn to just either have a comment ready for it or just ignore it. You know, because I don't know. I mean, I don't know why it bothers people so much. It's not like
It's either I found that there's 2 reactions. You either have like the older people that are like, oh, that's so awesome. Back in my day, people would have big families.
Yeah.
Or you have the people that are like, why didn't I have so many kids? So it's like either one or the other.
I have found, oddly enough, that a lot of people like, if they don't know us, or whether they know, if they think they know, or if they just mildly acquainted with us, they have this idea that you get checks for all these kids. Have you ever noticed
in Canada
that?
You actually do
For having kids? Really?
Yeah, in Canada. Well, Joe Biden's wanting to do that right now. He's wanting to give us money for kids. No, but they do. They have this mentality.
They think that I'm leeching off the system,
right?
Because I have all these kids. I'm like, I don't think you know how this works.
They might think that. Some people, they might think that. But
no, I've known people that do like foster kids and to get checks for kids. But
I have too.
As far as I know, you don't get checks for having kids.
No, we might this year because it's 2021 and Joe Biden is in office. But that is not something we knew when we started having kids.
We had one lady get mad at us one time for something, and she said something to that effect. I'm like, really? You think we're getting paid to have all these kids?
No, guys, that's not how it works. My husband and I were talking, and we were talking about how it just like amazes us when we find out that people actually have money. Because we're like, what's money? We've never had more than, how it is.
Well, I won't say, but we've had people like every time that we do anything, like if we happen to go out to eat one day or something, which isn't something we do very often altogether, or I don't know. I can't even think of anything right now, but just any little luxury of like go somewhere. So every time, must be nice. I'm like,
what in the world?
Must be nice. Like we were rich, and it must be nice to be able to do that or something. I'm like, you're crazy.
Yeah, no, it's the whole thing is raising kids is expensive, and it's a matter of priorities. Once again, we've always wanted a big family over a big boat. So and you know how it is. We don't have more than 1 or 2 pennies now that my older kids are making money with their jobs and stuff and living at home, so they will sometimes treat us for a meal, and that's really nice too. But I didn't know that when you were a pastor and you had a bunch of kids that you were expected to take a vow of poverty. But that's how some people act sometimes.
Yeah, like you're not supposed to have or do anything. But honestly, I don't apologize for anything that we live a very simple life. And even if I had $1 million, we would live a simple life.
Yeah, that's I totally agree.
But at the same time, the Lord, I will say, I have never, I don't know if you all do testimonies, have testimonies at church.
Sometimes, yeah.
But we do a lot of that down there in West Virginia.
Yes.
But I always hated the kind when they get up and it's almost like this, how hard it is to be a Christian and how hard everything is, but God's good. And, it's like, just sit down. You're
that's
making
not really a testimony.
I have nothing to claim. I think, to me, the Lord has been abundantly good to us, and we have not wanted. I don't feel like my kids feel like we have lacked anything because they're the path, or anything like that. I think the Lord has been good to us. I think they look at themselves just like anybody else, and and
that's what I love too when I met you guys, because most of our interaction at first was through social media, but then we've gotten to be with each other, now the week in West Virginia, and you guys are here now, and you're very down to earth. There's a lot of, I believe, I always tried this with my kids, because my husband was a PK, so he grew up kind of seeing what worked and what didn't. And he noticed that oftentimes there was, when it came to the pastor's family, almost like they put him on a pedestal, and like there was this, like, the kids were better than everyone else.
I know that is one thing I'd never understood.
I mean, we didn't like it.
And maybe it's just because we're in West Virginia. I don't know, but I don't think. I've heard that, that term.
I've seen that.
I've heard the term PKs or preacher's kids, or that people look at them differently. And maybe in some places it's that way, and I'm sorry if it is. But I mean, for us, it's never been an issue.
No, you're very down to earth.
I don't think they've ever thought of themselves as being in a fishbowl, or even, not that they've never thought of themselves as better than anyone else. But I don't think they've ever felt like they were.
Like they had all this pressure put on them, so much pressure on me. We didn't want to raise our kids that way. And
I don't think they've ever felt anything like that. I think they just felt like they were just part of the church like everybody else.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. I think, in my opinion.
I think so.
That's how we tried to raise our kids.
I thought it was funny, because I think somebody said that to one of my kids one time, and they're like, "What's a PK?"
They didn't even know what it was.
They didn't even know what it meant. Funny. So I was just like, "Well, that's good."
Yeah, that's good that they don't even know. No, they were just part of the family. That's awesome. So I did want to touch on that, raising a big family in ministry. Obviously, I have a feeling you're kind of like us in this area. Your kids have just always been there for everything. So how do you feel like with your kids? I know I'm going to wrap it up here pretty quick, but how do you feel that is one way raising kids? You've raised them to adulthood now. They're not married yet, but they're officially adults.
Autumn is 19, Bub is 18 this year, and Caleb's turning 16. So they're getting up there.
Yeah, I've got an 18 and 18-year-old. What is one way that you and your husband have tried to have your children's hearts and kind of steer them so that the things of God become theirs, not just mom and dad's conviction, but their conviction?
Every kid is different. I will say that. So they're going to look at things different that you do differently. But I think the biggest thing, and I think I may have mentioned to you about something else, but from my observation and then in our own family, and honestly, I've learned a lot from my husband, because I tend to be too serious. Like I take everything too seriously.
That's me as well. And why is it that our husbands are like,
he's really laid back and everything is, and so I've that's actually helped me a lot, because if it was just me, they'd probably be all messed up, because I take things way too seriously.
No, I know it. No, maybe it's because we need that balance,
Maybe,
I don't know.
But I've learned that the being real, like honestly, there should be any difference how you are anywhere. I mean, obviously, your home life is, more comfortable. You're at home.
Right.
I'm not saying that, but it should be the same.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be like that your kids see that you're an act at church and that at home you're different. I think you're just real. You're just who you are all the time. Whether you're at home or somewhere else, you're not perfect, and you're not trying to be. And
I've almost seen, like, even more. I've seen parents that will come down super harshly on their kids at church in front of people.
I do not like that.
I know, but it's not going on at home then. You know what I mean? You can tell it's for a show. I don't like that at all.
No, I don't like that, and I hope I don't ever do that. I try, if I need to deal with something, I try to do that privately,
right?
Or at least discreetly.
We call it office time. Come in Daddy's office.
No, but I mean, honestly, my kids are pretty. I mean, my little ones are little kids. I mean, they're just like all the other little kids.
Yes, Kelly. Yeah. Well,
I mean, they're like all the other little kids at church.
Yes.
But my older ones have really they've just, not because of any prodding or anything, but they
Right.
really just they like to become friends with whoever comes in and be a help to them. And so, I mean, I really respect my kids. I think they do really well. And as far as just being real and I think, like I said, joy. I don't know how to interpret that to people, but where your home should be. Obviously, you're going to have sibling fights, and you're never going to get rid of all of that. But there should be joy in your home. Like,
it shouldn't be a battleground.
Right. It should be happiness, fighting. And your kids should feel like you are who you.
Yes.
That the God is real to you, and that you're not serving him because you have to,
right?
Or because it's some kind of this is what you want to do. That
like it's some kind of burden.
Right.
Oh, I have to go to church.
Right. No, we serve the Lord because, I mean, he's been so good to us. You know, why wouldn't we?
Right.
And so, I mean, honestly, my Autumn, I've told her, she doesn't like when I say that, but she's she probably is more what's the word? Her standards and her beliefs, they are hers. She's probably more hardline than me.
More hardcore.
She's and I don't know. That's not because of me, you know, or my husband. So, I mean, I think at some point they just have to, and we've always told them that I mean, of course you have rules, but and things they can't do, but they have to read the Bible themselves. They have to have a walk with God for themselves. You know, we read the Bible together in the mornings, but I want them to have their own time. And so, I mean, some kids take to that better than others, and make it their own. Some you don't know yet, you know. But
some, I feel like with some too, I don't know. Have you noticed the difference between your girls and boys? I feel like my girls, it's sooner with my girls
that they get to that
with the whole Bible reading, you know, and just really. Now I feel like with my boys, it's there, but just the desire for like this deep relationship with Christ, I feel like is more. My girls are more sensitive with that.
I think some of that is just boys aren't as.
Is it our personalities?
I think it's they're not going to tell you that stuff.
That's true.
They're not as.
I'm gonna be like, hey mom, I read the Bible and that really spoke to me today.
Right. They're probably not going to tell you that.
Maybe that's why
what the Lord's doing in their heart.
Yeah.
But I do think they can have a lot of serious thoughts going on that you may not know about. And I like to think that they listen more than you think they are to the preaching and to other things. And my sons, I have noticed. I mean, the last several years, especially Bub, they would have preaching playing. They would listen to preaching all night. I mean, just like they were sleeping, but I mean, they would have preaching playing. And they said they listen to a lot of preaching just on their own, you know, not because
not because they're forced.
Right. Just or they'd be on YouTube, they'd find different preachers. And trying to think of, I was telling somebody the funny story. They do like to play games, probably more than I would like, but it's okay. We try to, as long as
hey, I let my kids play games too. It can't be all. You got to put some fun stuff in there.
They have to do other things.
Yeah,
I don't want them to be
downtime. Right, exactly.
But they do play games, and they actually met a young man that works. He's a farm boy, basically. They're two brothers in Minnesota, and they met them on Xbox, literally. Yeah. And through the course of playing Xbox, my son Travis led him to the Lord.
Oh, nice.
They're Catholic. And sweet people, they really are, and the whole family. And because of that, they ended up, my husband and their friend's dad, they drove up to Minnesota. They picked them up and they brought them to camp because they wanted to come to camp, and then took them back, and they came the next year themselves. They drove all the way down.
That's really cool.
And then when Luke passed away, they all came down for the funeral, and and I told my other friend that story. She's like, "Don't tell my son that story. He'll use that as an excuse forever."
Yeah. I gotta play Xbox. I gotta go witness. I gotta go witnessing. So winning.
But that's what happened.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, it's like they do try to seek what they both box, and they've actually had a positive influence on some of the other boys that go to that boxing club. So I think they just, whatever avenue they're in life, they look for ways to influence people while they're in it. So I'm not going to say anything about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I think, well, why do you want to do that? But it ends up being something that the Lord can use. So
that's really cool. Well, I'm excited to see the path our kids take in the next few years.
I am too.
We're like right there where our kids are like about to branch off into their own. It's like, are you excited? I'm excited, but I'm not really scared. I have faith that they're going to do well. They've already proven. I mean, they're working. Both my older boys are working men's jobs right now, and they're doing it. They're doing it. They're able to do it. So, but I'm excited about the prospect of their future. You know.
Yeah, and that's one thing I watched over and over and over growing up, just in different people, where people try to, I don't know how you call it, play the Holy Spirit for their kids and tell them, what they should do and that they have to go to college here or they have to, whatever,
give them ultimatums and do this or this,
or just try to plan their life, what they're supposed to. And both my husband and I have never tried to, not because of any spiritual reason necessarily, but just we've never tried to tell them what they have to do or as far as their future. We've always just we've always tried to tell them, you just, no matter what anybody says, you follow the Lord and you walk. First of all, you're gonna have to walk with the Lord to follow, but then you don't listen to, if the Lord tells you to do something, you do it. It doesn't matter what anybody says.
And another thing too that we've always tried, because my husband is a second generation preacher, and we never wanted my boys to feel like, well, I have to be a preacher,
right?
And as far as I know, neither one of them have that desire, and that's fine. I've told them, I've said, I have two things I want. I want you guys to marry pure, and I want you to stay in church your whole life and just serve in your church. That's what I want. If they do that, I will be happy. I'll be so happy.
As far as I know, I don't think any of them have college plans, and that is fine. I would just assume them have a skill or things that they can do,
a trade or something,
and let the Lord use it. And if the Lord tells them to go, then go. But I'm not pushing them at all to do anything like that. My daughter Autumn's very talented. She is. You should see some of her artist, and she's anything she wants to do. Basically, she's taught herself to do. She plays guitar. She's a photographer. So I mean, I'm not worried about that. But she walks with the Lord, and I know that, and so I just feel like in God's time they'll be exactly where they're supposed to be. So just excited to watch.
Me too. And he's proven himself faithful again. And I keep telling him, just do the next thing that you're supposed to do. My older son, he's like, what if I had a girl and we get married? He's 19 and feels like he's an old bachelor. And I'm like, you're 19, Tommy. Calm down.
Mine are the opposite. I don't think they even care.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, I shouldn't say they. At least my daughter, she's not interested. I mean, she doesn't even care about it. Anytime anyone says anything like that, oh, don't be weird. I'm like, you're 19. It's okay. But she'd be happy to be at home the rest of her life. Yeah, not my son.
He's ready. He's raring to go. But I keep telling him, God will bring her in your life when it's time. I said, you just keep doing what you know is right. You
follow the Lord, and she'll be there at the right time.
And finding God's will isn't like this magical thing.
Exactly.
It's
just a day by day.
It is one foot in front of the other. And just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. So
I always heard growing up that if you walk with God, you'll always arrive at your destination. And so you just keep day by day, you just keep walking with the Lord, and you'll be right where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there.
Yep. And then that's good advice too for even the women that are watching, because I have a lot of young moms with young kids, and they're looking at, I think they're just getting overwhelmed. Because is this going to be my life forever?
You do. I still do. One thing that's nice about having a lot of kids is that when your older ones get older, they're a big help.
Huge help.
They are.
I keep telling all the young moms, just wait. It gets better.
Yeah, and you just try to enjoy the moment. I mean, everybody says that, but I mean, because it does get better. It does. I remember so many times, and still sometimes I still have little ones, where you feel like you're in charge. You always have to take them out because they're loud or whatever.
I felt overwhelmed.
I was like, why do I even come?
I know.
The pastor's wife. Why am I even here?
Yes.
But because I have to take them out every service. I never get to sit in them. But I mean, and there's other young moms that feel that way, and so but I try to just let them know, I'm so glad you're here. Just keep bringing them. Keep bringing them. It's okay. But it'll pass. It will. And it will pass. and it does get better, and they will have the habit of being in church, and that makes all the difference.
It really does. I think that's a huge key. Eventually you will be able to sit through a service. It's coming.
Yes,
believe me.
I promise.
I had gotten to that point, with Lana, and then now I'm back to the taking him out, I'm trying to train Kelly to sit in there for longer times, and she's so noisy. Today I think we lasted 30 seconds. I had to take her right back out.
Mine are loud. They just have big mouths.
I mean,
Johnny
it's
and
a big
Esther
family thing.
They're just loud.
It's a big
even when they're happy and they're just playing, they're just so loud.
Yeah. Eventually it gets better. But yeah, I do agree. I mean, they're going to, I know I see a lot of families where the kids run the homes. And in fact, our grand opening service, there was a family walking up and they had a couple little kids, and they got to the door and the little girl decided she didn't want to be there. So the whole family turned around and went home.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, how sad, and who knows if they even got into church anywhere else. But, the kids don't run the house. You do. So bring them, they'll get used to it.
And with little, you just have I know as a young mom, when I'm not old yet, don't get me there. But when I just had the little ones, I always thought I needed to have all the secrets, and I needed to find out, and I will tell you this one thing, because I try to tell any young mom this, because for some reason, maybe it's everybody else knows this, but to me it was such a comfort to me. I always heard all growing up that kids are, when they're born, they're like this blank page, and everything that you do and everything that you say makes this lasting impression that that you're making or breaking your kids with everything you do.
Very poetic.
And well, it sounded beautiful.
Yeah, it's poetic.
And I believed that, but I soon learned that is not true.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, that was like a huge comfort to me, because
you feel all this pressure, like this blank page. Everything I do is going to be written on this blank page.
Exactly. But they are not. They come into this world very much their own person. They already have their own personality and their own ideas. That you have nothing to do with. Nothing. Nothing you said caused it. Nothing you did. That's who they are. And that was like some weird kind of comfort to me, because it's like, it's okay. It's going to be okay.
Because it took away a little bit of the pressure.
Yeah.
Like, okay, whew. Because so many times as moms, I feel like we think that every little single decision we're going to make, okay, is this going to put my kid in therapy? Are they going to be in therapy when they're 19 years old?
That's part of me taking everything too seriously too. Yeah. I'm always like, you can't do that. That's, you'll destroy them,
Yeah.
But I learned that you really find what works for you and your family, and don't worry about what anybody else thinks.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's it. I think too many are trying to model, after someone that they watch or they admire. And yeah, you can pick up things, from all of us.
I've tried a million things, but if it doesn't work, don't be afraid to drop it.
Exactly.
Because
and don't feel guilt over dropping it.
My kids, they laugh at me all the time, like, you've done so many things. Why don't we do this anymore? Why don't we do this anymore? I'm like, this didn't work. But I've learned to just, if it's not working, then try something else.
Yeah.
So I don't sweat that much anymore.
And different things work for different kids.
Yeah. And
sometimes you have to have different methodology when it comes to all your different kids.
And when we had Luke, that was a whole nother, that was a whole nother world. Literally, school, the idea of it fried my brain, because
there was so much
to do. The attention was total. It had to, I got to where, and you have to find things that work. I said, one of these days I'm going to earn $1 million just on inventing something for this kid. Because we were always coming up with something for whether it was, he was Houdini, he would get out of everything, but I got to where, okay, I scheduled each of my older children, each a half an hour with him, or there you go, and the little ones, so that the other ones could do something, whether it was chores or school, and then they would switch off, and that worked for a little while. But then, when that stopped working, we stopped. But that worked for a while. So you're just always you're always reinventing the wheel. But that's just life.
That's life, and you go through different stages. Your kids are at different
so don't feel
stage.
bad about that. That's everybody does that. So don't feel bad if you're not doing it like somebody else, or because You just have to do what you and your husband decide works for you.
Exactly. And that is one of my biggest pieces of advice I always give. So this is my advice, but what works for me might not work for you. So don't feel guilty.
But like I said, the same one that works in me works in you. You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're saved and you have the Holy Spirit, He will help you. He will give you ideas, and you will make it.
Yep. Good. And we're going to end with that. So thank you for being on here.
It was fun.
You'll have to like watch yourself tomorrow night.
I will not watch myself.
I know. Sometimes I will watch myself to pick up little habits I'm doing because I do this every week. So I don't want to be saying or like
I probably haven't looked at the camera the whole time.
No, I don't think you have. That's all right. I'm a little more comfortable with interacting. When I first started, it was so weird because I was just looking at the camera.
You look at that.
Yeah, there's nothing there, you know. So but I'm so comfortable now with it after doing it 3 years. So, but I will have to have you on
again. Well, it's a blessing to have things like that for later.
Yeah. I like it. It's taken the verse. I guess we're considered one of the aged ones right now.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't consider myself aged.
I do have the gray, but I do pull them. So.
I do too. I'm getting more and more, but I try plucking them.
I've always heard, that if you pull one, you get 10 more, but I still pull them.
I do too.
I see them there.
They have stick to go straight up. They stick all over the place.
They're a different texture. They don't go with the rest of your hair. They don't color. So it's not. I only tried that once. I've never really colored my hair, but that didn't work. I mean, for a little while maybe, but they were right back. So I was just like, forget that.
Yeah, my husband always says just age gracefully.
Well, I don't mind. I always thought I would do that, but like I was thinking like at 60,
not 40.
Not 40.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, next week I'm going to hope to have. I haven't even asked her yet, so I'm not going to say anything until I ask her. But I'm hoping to have another pastor's wife on next week. So I hope you enjoyed this premiere, and I'm hoping to get you on again. Well, I'm sure. Tell us what you want to hear from a mother of 12, okay? So we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Yep, there we go.